1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello, and welcome to Dopey, the podcast on drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. This is, of course, the YouTube edition. My name is Dave, and I'm very, very excited because I have two guys on today, Bryan and Mike of Dopehead NFT down in Texas, and they are part of the Dopey family. The Dopey community is growing. We have some nice Texans joining our little community, so welcome.
Welcome.
Hey,
well, thank you so much.
So tell us everything. We need to know everything. Tell us. First, let's start with Dopehead NFT.
Sure, no problem. It's the first ever NFT with a social cause. What we decided to do is attach a social cause because we want to impact our neighbors next to us. And so the genesis of the idea came from my incarceration in a federal correctional facility because I was locked up and incarcerated for growing marijuana. Surprise, huh?
When did you start growing weed?
Around 2000, 2001.
Now, what I understand is that you are a big-time hip-hop artist from Texas. Toe down.
Well, I'm big. I'm 6'5".
Really? 6'5"?
Yeah. You know, we grow them big in Texas. You know, it's a lot of cornbread down here. But so I started off my career as an entertainer and a recording artist for Warner Electric Atlanta. I was doing songs in 2000, 2001. One of them was called The Country Rap Tune.
Yeah, I saw that video on YouTube.
Yeah, featuring Big Hawk and Big Pokey. And what happened is, fast forward 8 years later, technology catches up. People are able to download music. They stop buying CDs. And we had to pivot as a company, I guess, you know. So we went from making records to making marijuana, and so that afforded us the ability to maintain and do the things that we needed to do as not only a record company but maintain our personal lives.
Now, prior to when did the grow start? How much of a stoner were you when the grow started? Were you growing bud in the first place when you were writing rhymes? Like I was a big stoner too. I love these stories, so just let's hear about it.
Well, rap is all about letting people know what's going on around you and what's going on with you. It's kind of like reporting the news, you know. And so my lifestyle was exactly what I was rapping about, you know. I was growing marijuana. I was, hustling dope. I was selling everything under the sun, from ecstasy to trip to whatever you wanted. You could pick up the phone call and call me, and I'd go get it for you. And so that was always kind of like my main job. And then all my buddies around me were getting record deals. And I was like, wait a minute, if these guys can go get a record deal, I'm pretty sure I can, trick somebody and get a record deal too. So I put together a record with me and my friends who were all, basically were getting signed to major labels. And I put out a record called The Country Rap Tune. And The Country Rap Tune just took off, It was one of those things that once it got played in Houston and Dallas, everybody wanted to play it because Houston and Dallas were like two top 10 markets. But they didn't know I could drive to both of them and go promote in each city. But, we captured that, that FOMO, and we were able to ride it in on a record contract where we got a $500,000 advance and we got a $500,000 video budget. And we shot The Country Rap Tune on the original Dukes of Hazzard set from Warner Brothers. Awesome. We got to play with all their fun toys and wreck their cars and flip cars and do car chases and things you've always wanted to do when you're a little kid, but now you're sitting behind the camera doing them. And so
were you getting high when you were doing the video? Were you guys like, was there any hard drugs? Because obviously you're smoking weed if you're doing fucking rap video. Have to be, right? It's like a prerequisite.
So I didn't get the name Toe Down by walking around sober. I got the name Toe Down because I was fucked up all the time. Like, seriously, you could just, any time of day or night, I had as much drugs in me as possible.
What was your thing?
Weed was always the base. But I loved ecstasy. I dabbled a little bit into some coke every now and again when you go out and party, but my party life consisted of, Monday through Sunday, going out, popping bottles. So the reprieve from the drug abuse was, never, it was taking 120 lower tabs a day, just to maintain buzz. So,
what are Lord? What are I have to confess two things. First thing, I'm realizing how middle-aged and Jewish I am that I couldn't put together that toe down is like tore down. I mean, forgive me. It's probably New York and middle-aged, but so toe down is obviously like being tore down. I was thinking of it like, what the fuck does toe down mean? But now I understand now that you pronounced it in the way that I need to understand it. And Mike, please bear with me. Well,
I always wonder why it wasn't toe up. That's what I asked him.
Why not toe up? That's a great question. And what are lore tabs? How come I never got to do lore tabs? What are
Okay, so the whole toe down thing came about was I was sitting on a couch at a party one night and I was just started rapping and I was trying to come up with a cool name. And I couldn't come up with a name to save my life. Months rolled on and I still didn't have a name. I was just a rapper. And then finally one great night of eating so many Loratab, which are hydrocodones, which is basically, if you break it down to its chemical,
it's like
basically like Vicodin, morphine. It's all from that heroin line, right?
Sure.
And so I was just so inebriated that I was like, man, I'm fucking toe down. And then that was it. It was it. They're like, all right, that's your name, toe down. Boom.
When you say it, it sounds really good, though, too. When you say I'm toe down, it sounds like the real thing.
I've had a lot of practice at that. And then
when I say the rapper known as Toe Down, it sounds terrible. But when you're toe down, that's the whole other thing. So forgive me. I'm sorry. I have to apologize.
It's all good. And then we wanted to spell it correctly for everybody so they wouldn't say tore down. Down here in Texas, we got a little swag to our lingo, so it's like y'all and then toe down. It's not tore down. It's, toe down.
Dude, I'm
so
with you.
It was either TOE or TOW. And out of TOE and TOW, we decided TOW. So it was like, all right, toe down. There you go. And then, so that's how the name came about. Now, as far as like lore tabs, that was a vicious cycle that I got into early because I got into a car wreck. I think most people start out this way. They get into a car wreck, they get prescribed some pills, and they just keep taking the pills. And so I just kept taking the pills and taking the pills and taking the pills. And before you know it, went from, 2 every 12 hours to 12 every 2 minutes. So.
Right. What was I thinking? Did you wind up getting a habit?
Oh yeah, definitely. I was hooked on drugs probably, my second year out of high school going into college. Like I knew I had a problem. It wasn't that I didn't want to stop or anything, but I had no reason to stop. Here I am, a young rapper with a name of being toe down. Well, let me go out and prove how toe down I can get. A couple bottles a night at the club, or doing stupid stuff like eating 100 pills in a day. Just to maintain a buzz, just to show that, hey, listen, in rap, there's a lot of look at me, right? Well, the same thing applies, but it was just in drug terms. I can smoke more, I can eat more pills, I can do more blow than you. Just like all these things amplified, and then you throw, somebody who's inexperienced, like myself, into this culture of drugs, and you get addicted very quickly. And so I didn't have a reason to stop doing drugs. It seems like drugs were amplifying my life and help promoting my records. And
I can relate to all that stuff. I was an amateur rapper myself. I don't like to talk about that too much. In my college days, I was in a little hip hop group, and all we did was freestyle. We had fucking 2 drummers, a bass player, and a blind keyboard player. Fucking, it was
Sweet.
It was all right. But I was taking a lot of psychedelics, And the psychedelics made me be like, you're not really a rapper. And I lost total self-confidence, and I just became a drug addict instead of rapping. And but I can relate also that I always wanted to smoke more weed or take more pills or take bigger doses. And like I can totally relate to that. And so after you get the advance, from what I understand, you put the money into a studio, right? And then like the business kind of changed a bit, and it's like, fuck, we got to amp up the grow, right?
That's right.
How'd you get away from the opiates? Or you didn't?
So I never got away from the opiates until I got locked up in the federal prison. So what happened in about 2008, the music business switched over. Napster was around. People were downloading music.
Right.
So you went from making $7 a record on the wholesale side to making 70 cents a download if you were the record company. Now, if you weren't the record company and you were an artist signed to that, you made pennies on that. So, as far as maintaining, a $30,000 a month lifestyle on top of maintaining all your friends and family who need money, you have to figure out another way to make money. And marijuana provided that. At the time we were getting $5,600 for a pound of weed. So it's like, okay, if we can get that much for a pound of weed, how much can we grow and how fast can we grow it? And
how good was the bud? How good was the bud, and how long did it take to like make the proper grow?
Like for the first 3 years, I basically killed everything that I grew. Like I had a black thumb. Like I couldn't get it right for shit. I'd get these wispy little buds, nothing really proud to go show your friends. And then finally I hooked up with an old high school buddy of mine who had been out to California and said, hey man, I got the hookup. Let me teach you what to do. And then once he started, educating me on the proper way to grow, I was able to, get 3 pounds of light every 99 days. And we would put 6 to 12 lights in each house. So, one house could produce easily, $250,000 every 99 days.
Wow.
And our bigger houses, they could produce a couple million in a year. Real easily. Like my brother's house had 25 grow lights in it.
Amazing.
So, you're getting 75 pounds every 99 days at $5,600 a pound. And he was wholesaling them at $4,000 a pound. And people were just gobbling them up,
And were you like a master gardener? Were you just like, you knew fucking every little bit of fertilizer and pH and light versus water versus, were you doing hydro, or was it all organic soil, or what were you doing? Did you know everything? Like Mr. Green Jeans, toe down?
So Mike can attest to this. Anything that I do, I jump fully into, like
That's
10
great.
toes in, like whatever it is, And marijuana was just one of those things where when you started to grow, waking up and walking in the grow room and smelling all the CO2 and the chlorophyll in the air, and you're like, okay, this is my new addiction.
Right.
And so I became addicted to growing weed. So not only did I have the most technology in my grow room, but I had, all the air cooled lights first and all the latest gadgets and meters and everything that I needed to have a successful grow. And so as far as, green thumbs, like I said, I didn't have one at first. But when you spend enough time in that environment and you pick up on things and you're able to write things down and document them, your grows get progressively. So by the end of my grow career, I could take a plant from beginning to end without any discrepancies growing the plant. And then that's what you want to do when you're growing weed. The minute your plant starts to get overwatered or there's a hiccup or it starts to turn colors, it will never regain its full potential. It's kind of like damaged and it just, maintains as it goes. So you want to try to grow a plant from beginning to end without any hiccups. And so towards the end of my career, big fat buds, 12-inch buds, big around. When the cops arrested us, they're like, we've never seen plants in pots this big. I'm like, well, we're in Texas. Of course, everybody grows weed in a 22-gallon trash can. Who doesn't grow weed in a 22-gallon trash can? I thought everybody grew weed in a 22-gallon trash can. Oh, wait, I'm the only one growing weed in Texas? Well, they acted like it, and they threw the book at me for that.
How awesome was it at first, though? Like when you walk into the grow room and everything is so perfect. I mean, like I never had that. I was a crazy pothead. And like whenever I was around somebody's grow, I was like, oh my, I was just like, thought I was in heaven. I went to Northern California once to trim, but I was on heroin and methadone. They fired me in a day because I was too annoying, but I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. How, like, what was that like, the first kind of success?
I think you described it perfectly. It's like walking into heaven. You know, you really get to see God's work at hand, and you start to realize that, wow, this thing is designed perfectly. You know, you put it in dirt, you add a little water, provide a little light, and you get this beautiful bud. And not only that, but this bud is medicine. It can help people with anxiety. It can help people with arthritis. It has so many different, uses. Not only that, but it's utilitarian. You can use it to make hemp, and you can make hemp rope, and you make canvases, and all the other things you can do with marijuana, like make paper. If you're the
and it gets you high.
And it gets you high as shit. It's like,
right.
Wait a minute, this is Article 19 is the bee's knees. We need to tell everybody about this, So, waking up and going in there and that first smell of chlorophyll, and then the lights brighten up, because when the big lights come on, the high pressure sodiums, they take a minute to warm up. So it's almost like the sunrise, and you see these beautiful plants go from this resting state to, reaching and stretching for that light. And it's the best feeling in the world. It's truly an addiction that I definitely had at the time.
And what happened? How did they catch you?
So, most federal cases, police work isn't police work like you see on TV. Nobody's investigating anything. What happens is it's all informant based. So a snitch or an informant will inform on you, and that's the beginning of the case. Either they're trying to get out of a case that they had pending somewhere else, or they're in trouble and they don't want to do the time that, they're supposed to do. And so they'll start informing. And then when they don't have enough informants, they squeeze those family members and they produce more informants. So by the time I got locked up in the federal system, I was already arrested twice before. Right. I was already bonded out twice before. In the state, you can get a high-powered attorney and you can basically crush any case, If you have the right attorney, they know what they're doing, they can get you off that case or get you a minimum sentence. In the feds, everything is done on a chart. There's no getting off that chart. You're on the sentencing guideline somewhere. Either you're going to have some numerals on it, or you're going to have some letters. You want to stay away from the letters, that LIFE sentence. You want to stay away from the life.
Right.
And so, when I was locked up in the federal institution, how I got there was through a succession of informants, one informant after another, to the point where, you have your closest family and friends around you, and now they're being squeezed by the government to saying, hey, listen, you were caught growing marijuana. You're already getting 10 years. Do you want to get another 10 years, being affiliated with the Theriot brothers? And so, everybody thinks independently and they're really out for themselves. It's survival, so people started telling, and they would tell everything. And the only thing that did was, solidify the government's case against me.
Right.
I could bring, to trial that, hey, we're being locked up unjustly because the federal government mislabeled marijuana as a Schedule I. I could try to fight the case that way, but they're going to come back and they're going to say, well, you still were growing marijuana. So at the end of the day, everything was about what is the best trade-off in my situation. If I go to trial and I lose, they're going to smash me and I'm going to get 40 years. Where if I take this plea deal, the most I'm going to get is maybe 10 years, 12 years.
Right.
And when I originally talked to my attorney, he said, hey, listen, this sentence normally carries a 36-month sentence, which was something that I thought I could do. Hey, man, look, couple $1 million, 36 months, sign me up for 2, please, But what happened is when it came time for sentencing, the federal government likes to add on these enhancement points. And so the points will move you further down the guidelines. So they gave me 3 points for being a leader and organizer in the Theriot drug trafficking organization. And they gave me another point for maintaining a place of manufacturing, which was my original crime anyway. So I got 4 extra points, basically doubling my sentence. I'm looking at an 87-month sentence, and I'm like, all this for weed? Like, we're talking about weed here. This isn't like me going out and harming someone else. This is me and some marijuana, and I'm growing marijuana, and I'm getting 87 months. Man, this is crazy.
But it was right in that moment. It was right in that moment where it's still totally criminal, and like it's moving away from criminality in different places in the country. But it's still like, I mean, what year did you get busted?
Right. So even though I knew it was illegal, I knew that California already had legalization in the works, and that it would eventually be legal. I just didn't know how long it would take for them to catch up. And at the time, I was like the Jim Beam of marijuana. You know, I was bootlegging marijuana. And then when I got arrested and I was in the federal system, I noticed that 90% of the people that were incarcerated were there for a drug crime. And so I was blessed because President Barack Obama signed into law that nonviolent drug offenders could receive a 10% reduction on their sentence.
Nice.
And that was the idea of the aha. The next thing that I do on a major label, it will be to help free nonviolent drug offenders. Because anybody with a drug case shouldn't be in prison. Right. You know, it should be reserved for, you know, child molesters and killers and kidnappers and people trying to do major scams and stuff like that. And here I am, I'm putting a seed into some dirt and watering it, and I'm being arrested, you know. Well, go
Let me ask
guy.
you this. I
He's
totally
my
agree with you. No, I totally agree with you, and it's fucked up. You know, it's about liberty. You know what I mean? And it's criminalizing something where it should be somebody's decision what they do. But that's not what the show is about. But I'm with you 100%. And then my question is though, if you're going into jail with that Lortab habit, with that lifestyle, how did you land in jail? Were you using in jail? Did you have to kick in jail? What was that?
Oh my God, let me tell you, while they were arresting me, from the night before, I was trimming marijuana. And every time I trimmed marijuana, I made sure I had plenty of pills with me so I could be in a sedated state.
Sure.
And so I remember the night before, I had like 15 pills left over in my pocket, but they were arresting me, right? And so I was handcuffed, so I was figuring out how can I get to the bathroom to eat these last 15 pills.
Right.
And so I remember being able to sneak off into the bathroom quick enough, go use the bathroom, eat the pills, come out, and that was like, okay, this is the last time you're going to be eating pills for a long time. And kicking in prison is not fun at all. You know, thank God I had a cellie at the time that understood, hey, listen, I was going through some stuff and I was on, you know, up and down the bunk all night long. Nobody understands that, like, severe diarrhea where even if you want to try to hold it, you can't. Your body is just expelling everything at one time. You know, your skin hurts to the point where, you know, moving slightly is an irritation, and then you're cold, and then you're hot, and then everything is like super bright, and you're super sensitive to hearing, and you just want everything to be quiet and nobody to move. And so kicking in jail was extremely hard, but at the same time I was going for my arraignment. So they would lock us up, right, in a holding tank for 12 hours at a time while we went through the arraignment. So I was actually kicking it, laying on the floor, toilet paper behind my head, you know, spazzing out on the floor just to try to, you know, be able to function and stand in front of the judge. And as I'm sitting in the courtroom, I'll never forget this. I'm just sweating profusely. There, you know, my hands are shaking. In the background, I'm hearing, you know, menace to society, a threat to his community, a danger to others. And I'm like looking at my brother. I'm like, man, whoever that is, we need to meet him. They sound like they know what they're doing. And he's like, stupid motherfucker, they're talking about you. And I'm like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. And so I'm standing in front of the judge and, you know, sweat just pouring. You can't even control the sweat. It's the most uncomfortable feeling ever. You know, you lay down and within 2 minutes, you're just laying in a pool of sweat. You know, it's the most uncomfortable thing. anything I've ever experienced, and I've experienced it multiple times.
Sure.
You know, it's one of those things that as an addict, you hate the fear of withdrawal so much that you would do anything not to experience that pain.
Yeah.
And that's incredible. You know, that
So-
in itself is incredible.
When you're starting to serve the sentence and you sweat it out and you kick, I mean, I can't even imagine kicking in jail. Like I never did more than a night. And I remember in the morning, I was just desperate to get to somebody, and I always did, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But, how was there using in jail? Did you ever go back to opiates? Like, how did you make sure it was done?
So, and, you know, most people don't understand that prison is just like the world. It's in its own ecosystem. You can
Sure.
get whatever you want. You know, if you want a cell phone, you can get the latest iPhone if you wanted it. If you wanted, you know, Popeye's chicken, it was available at some places. Like, you know, if you were lucky enough to make it to a camp, they don't even have a fence around the camp. So people would leave, go out with their girlfriends, come back, and the guards wouldn't even know about it. So
Right.
if you're lucky enough to get to a camp, it's literally like living in the free world. And when you're locked up behind the fence, as they say, where I was for the first part of my sentence, you still get stuff, but it's on a limited supply. So
And expensive,
and-
right? Everything is crazy expensive.
And that's why you know, turn into a dealer in prison. You know, if somebody, like the big thing that we were over there in Beaumont with was Suboxone. You know,
Sure.
because if you needed a drug test, you would pass it because they weren't testing for Suboxone. You know, so you could get high, fucked up, you know, do what you got to do, and if they drug tested you, you'd come out clean. So you know, the drugs were available in prison, but once I had kicked in prison, I was good. You know, because sobriety is like a drug. Sobriety, when you're sober for the first time, and you know,
Yeah.
18 years. And you're like, wait a minute, this is different. This feels awesome. Like
Freedom.
I can actually have emotions, and you know, I can dream again. One thing I noticed when I'm on drugs, I don't dream. I don't visualize. You know, I go to sleep, I wake up, it's a robotic type thing. When you're sober, you wake up differently. Your dreams are vivid. You can remember your dreams. Your awareness and your emotions are all out there. When you're on drugs, your emotions, you know, you don't laugh as much. Not, you know, it's really, you know, a day and night thing. And so sobriety to me in prison was like a breath of fresh air. I was like, okay, now that I'm off the pills, I don't ever have to go back to the pills, you know?
So you were
It wasn't
relieved
something-
when you finally were done with it. You were like, holy shit, this has been one good outcome of this thing.
100%. You know, I looked at prison as the reset button on the PlayStation. You know, I was able to reset my life where a lot of people don't get afforded that opportunity. So
Right.
I got rid of all the bad company that I was hanging out with. I got rid of all the bad people I was associated with. Because what happens when you're locked up, everybody is, you know, close to you. There, you know, you have all your friends and family around you during sentencing, and then slowly people fall off. You know, 6 months later, you have half as many girlfriends writing in and half as many homeboys writing in. You know, a year later, you're lucky enough to have one homeboy sending you some pictures, and maybe you're lucky enough to talk to a family member. By the time you're 3-4 years in, hell, your family members don't even communicate with you at that point. You know, so your outside world, what it was to me at the point, I was always trying to impress the next guy next to me, and I didn't even know why. Like, I wanted people to see me in my 600 Benz that was worth, you know, $100,000, or I wanted people to see how big my house was, or I wanted to let people know that I can walk into any club and I could pop bottles all night long if I wanted to. For no reason, I did that. And so when I was able to reset in prison, I came out totally a new person. Hey, the phoenix is rising out the ashes. Let's go get it. And so my brother and I, you know, are my mom's 24-hour caregivers. So while I was locked up, my dad passed away and my mom suffered a stroke. And so my brother and I were like, we're just going to dedicate our time and focus on mom.
I'm
And then
sorry
after
about
about
that.
6
That's horrible.
It's all It's all good. And then so about 6 months after that, my brother was like, "Okay, I can't sit in the house anymore. I got to do something. I'm gonna go get into real estate." And I was like, "All right, cool. No problem. I'm gonna make some more, music on the side, and we'll still be able to, kick it and take care of mom." And then COVID-19 hit, and I decided, well, hell, let me go ahead and get my real estate license while all this is going on. And I started dabbling into crypto, which led me into NFTs. And then once I discovered what NFTs were, I was like, aha, this is the ticket for the non-violent drug offender cause. This can make and generate enough money where people who are focused and are trying to help people can get that funding.
Do you remember where the epiphany happened? How did it happen? When did you have this vision?
It was sitting in front of my computer late one night, probably about 5 o'clock in the morning, because if you're in crypto, you're a degenerate. It's a 24-hour market, plain and simple. You're up all hours of the night. And it was about 4 o'clock in the morning. I'll never forget. I saw this thing pop up that says Jay-Z purchases CryptoPunk. And I was like, wait a minute. Jay-Z is buying NFTs and putting it on as his Twitter. This is something that's going to be huge. And I started looking into NFTs at that point. And then what got me really super excited about it is I was able to go and be a part of some of these communities and get on their pre-sale list where I could mint or purchase more of the NFTs than you could on the public side. And then I would flip those NFTs for 5 and 10 times the amount I paid for them. So in one night, I remember making like 50 grand off some NFTs. And I was like,
wow,
this is the ticket. This is the new hot thing. This is the new median. Everybody was going to want to be, driving towards and, focusing on in the future. And Mike has said time and time again, NFTs are just the beginning, when it comes to like their utilities. They'll be your password. They'll be your deed to your house. They'll be they have a chameleon-like trait where they can be anything from a piece of artwork to a player in a video game to
an audio file, right?
Non-fungible
token. Where does Mike Frost come into the story? Where did you run into this lunatic? What happened? I'm sorry for him taking up all the time, but I needed to hear that story. Thank you, Bryan.
Oh no, I'm from Houston. Like most of the stuff, like when you think about Houston, like in Houston music and the album covers and like Slim Thug and Paul Wall and all them, I was designing everybody's covers and stuff in the city. So I did that for like 20 years, but I was getting into NFTs and, I was looking, I'm a coder too. I was looking at the technology. I jumped on OpenSea. You got to pay a fee to like post your first time. So I just posted something up to test it out and put it on Instagram. And then Bryan sent a message or something. So I think a couple hours later, he was at my house and we started talking about it. We met up a couple times and it went over some ideas. He wanted to do like the crypto wrestling ninjas.
The masked wrestlers of the metaverse. Aha!
And, I had some things that I was thinking about doing, but he pulled out this like picture of the character we have called Buddy. And, it reminded me of the Swisher House cover I did back in the day with a bunch of like dope characters standing on the corner. It's called Under the Influence, and I just looked at it and I was like, that's what we need to do. But then I waited to, I tried to do his crypto wrestling mask stuff, but I went to the next day and I was like, this is what we need to do. I don't want to do anything else. Let's do this. And that's how it kind of came about.
And that's when Dopehead NFTs was born. And like, and I know Dopehead NFTs is like Mike makes the animation and does the tech side of it. Tell us about the characters, the stories, and the overall mission and how people can get involved with it.
I think I'll speak on the animation and the character part. So, I know there's a lot of things out there where people were like doing weed, marijuana based characters, but I was like, man, let's throw all the drugs in there. Let's do it all. And like, I'm going to base the characters off we've been in the music business. There's always the weed head around me. There's always the bar head. There's always these people we've all grown up with. And I was like, so, let's make the cartoon about these type of characters, like just hustling, trying to do different businesses, going into different adventures, but going about it in a very dope-headed, kind of effed up way. So, that's basically kind of what the cartoon's about. It's not really going to be a cartoon about drugs doing drugs. It's going to be characters that have the dope heads that kind of represent those type of personalities in a comical way, just trying to get about life. Like we might have the brick of coke head kind of takes on the personality of that like block hustler, attitude, but he might be trying to sell Scentsy candles to grandma in an episode or something.
Right, and he's always anxious. He's always bugged out on coke.
Yeah. So, that's the general idea of it. And then we're going to bring in a bunch of like, I'm into comic books, I'm into other stuff. So we're going to bring in a bunch of like other dimensions and aliens and all kinds of crazy stuff, and just have like, just imagine your dope head friends interacting like if an alien came down or something and they're trying to hustle them.
So it's like if Beavis and Butthead were actually drugs, and then them kind of like in the I get it. I think it's fun. And
then
let me ask you this. What was that, Brian? I'm sorry.
And then not only that, but when you purchase one of these Dopehead NFTs, you'll be able to audition your character because you're in charge of writing that character's backstory. So we're going to get 10,000 different unique characters where every one of them could have a different backstory, and then they can audition those characters for the animated series.
See, I would like there to be... I'm sorry, go for it, Mike. My bad.
I said that's one thing we're doing is we're going to allow the people who support us and get the NFT. We're going to hold auditions and give people, like The Simpsons will have hundreds of extra characters. We're going to give people the opportunity to be creative with this audition. And if they get their characters on the show and they're successful, we'll cut them into some profits of the merch sales. So.
Nice. I have a character that probably won't be successful in the Dopehead NFT, which is the sober heroin addict. Can we get the sober heroin addict as a Dopehead guy?
That sounds like a Dopehead's animation. Actually, that sounds like a Dopehead's animation character.
Just don't make him too annoying. He can't be too annoying. He can be just almost annoying and be like, you guys, maybe you shouldn't get high. Like Sobriety can afford you something good, and they're gonna be like, nah, and they'll kick the Dopey out. But I think my favorite thing about
drugs.
I think my favorite thing about the whole thing is about liberty, about people doing what they want to do, and about it not being criminal. But for me, and I'm sure a lot of people will watch this and be like, what the fuck? This is pro drugs. But it's really pro liberty. It's reality that like anybody that's a Dopey fan, might be using, and a lot of them are definitely in recovery, but we all have experience around this. And I think there is still entertainment in the adventures of the drugs or the characters or the stories. And I think that's where we kind of overplay.
I think when the animation comes out, I don't think these characters are going to be role models that you want to follow, because I mean we're making fun of people. We're making fun of the personalities that certain people that take certain things seem to acquire.
And you know what? Go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was like, and there's the other side of it too. Like, some drugs we're staying away from. We know they're like incredibly dangerous. We're not gonna make fun of those. And if
there's not gonna be like fentanyl frog or something, some like frog who's all fucked up on fentanyl all the time. No.
Yeah, and if they are, they're gonna be cast in like a really bad light. So a lot of the stuff has medicinal purposes that we're using, and personally, we're not really about abuse. But I can't say that I'm not against like, if you microdose on shrooms or something or something like that. Like I'm personally not against that. So, but the abuse part is like I'm gonna be cool with my friends and take 100 pills, like Toe Down was saying. Like that's just kind of some dumb shit, and we'll totally be making fun of those people in the cartoon.
But then it's also, what were you going to say, Brian? I'm sorry.
You said something very important, to your listeners who are going through sobriety and who are already there. This is about, like you said, experience and education. If I can share with you my experiences about, hey, listen, I was so whacked out on pills that I shit in my fucking bunk for 6 nights straight, you're going to be like, I don't think I want to take those pills. So it's about education. It's not like glorifying drugs. It's not like Mike and I are champion. Hey, go out and do more drugs. Hey, look at these stupid characters that make you laugh. Take on a little bit of the education that they're trying to tell you, and then you can make a better educated decision about what you want to do in life. If somebody would have told me the repercussions of what pills and heroin was going to do or have an effect on my life, I would have never even ventured down that road. My first experience about drugs was from a police officer who came to my class and said, drug awareness, resistance, and education. So here are the drugs, and you should just say no. But when I find out that marijuana does have medical value, now I feel like the information I was given was wrong. So how can I go out and help educate people? Well, this is just a form of education. It's not going out and championing and promoting drugs. It's just a form of educating people through our experiences that we've turned into these drug characters. They do stupid shit. If you want to do stupid shit, that's on you, but at least understand that there are repercussions in your actions. And here are some experiences that we had. And that's
Right.
what it's about.
It's also just about expression. You know what I mean? It's like make art, make scenarios, whatever. I think like doing drugs is not a bad thing. It's like when you lose yourself to the drugs and when your life is compromised by the drugs and your relationships and your family and your liberty, your happiness. Like I would have I would have loved to stay doing drugs. It destroyed my whole life. I don't smoke weed anymore. And I don't smoke weed because first of all, I love my sobriety, but secondly, because like I have 2 kids, I have a house. Every time I smoked weed, I wound up on drugs. Like I don't want to risk what I have. I'm not against bud. I love bud, but I love all the drugs that I did. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think it's interesting because one thing doesn't mean everything. You know what I mean? If you're talking about drugs, it doesn't mean you're promoting drugs. And if you're talking about drugs, you're certainly not talking about abusing drugs. And I think that you guys can do a lot of really fun things where you can connect, like you were saying, Mike, about like microdosing mushrooms as a therapeutic tool. And then somebody else can make fun of him and be like, you're bugging, you're just tripping out. Like I think there's a lot of fun, cool things that you can do with this, and I'm excited for you guys. I think the best thing is that you're doing something you like. Fuck it.
I've had a different experience with drugs, and I think both of y'all is I've never really, the only things I've ever had a problem with or addicted to was cigarettes, and I had a problem with alcohol before. But as far as all the other drugs that are legal, I've taken all of them, and I've never had a problem with any of them, except I've always stayed away from heroin or other things like that. But
what was your alcohol problem like?
That was a kind of the same thing like Toedown was talking about. It was just going out, going to clubs, going to places, being inherently kind of reserved and shy, and it just it made me open up. And being in the music of it, I just kept doing it until I just never knew when to say when, and that really became the problem with it. And it's really my wife that kind of put it into that with me. And now, I don't really, I drink every once in a while. I really don't have too much of a problem with it anymore. I might overdo it every once in a while, but I don't drink every day. I don't really drink that much at all. So it's my view on drugs is it's when abuse becomes cool that to me it's a problem, or when you need it to when instead of you're just doing it to have fun, it's replacing something in your life. Like for me, it was a bridge to get across my insecurity, and the combination of those two things with alcohol made it a problem. And cigarettes, I'm just always been addicted to them.
You still smoke?
My wife can pick them up and put them down, huh?
You still smoke?
Yeah, still smoke.
Well, you haven't smoked for this hour, so that's impressive. You don't smoke inside, or you smoke in the studio?
I don't smoke inside cars or houses and stuff like that. That's
Well, I think you're talking about, huh?
I think we're gonna make a Dopehead cigarette character that can never come inside.
That's fine. I think you should. I think every personal experience is where the characters should come from. And I also think that like what you just said in terms of dealing with insecurities, I think that's where it starts for everybody. And then it's just where it goes from there, you know, like that's where it started for me. And then it went, you know, to a very like a crazy dependent, total addict place. But and Bryan, did you ever do 12-step stuff? Any kind of like organized recovery stuff or no?
Oh yeah, like I got plenty of experience that through prison. They make
Right.
you educate yourself, and one of them was a program that gave you up to a year off if you completed the drug course. And so I remember being in their community. And a lot of the stuff is just common sense stuff that you throw out the window when you're a drug addict because you're so numb to what's going on around you. You just do dumb, stupid shit. And so, you know, confronting and leveling with somebody, working on your relationships. I didn't understand that my drug abuse played an effect on others. I thought that, hey, it's my body. I'm just doing whatever I want to myself. But I'm not paying attention to my rest of my family members. Like I'm not hanging out with my brother as much, or I'm not giving the attention to my mom that she needs, or my girlfriend's mad at me because I'm always nodding off in front of the PlayStation, you know? So your effect on other people is what I learned the most out of that process. And then going back and confronting them and apologizing like, hey, I was a dick. Like I did some stupid shit. You know, like arguing with people for no reasons. And, you know, you just learn how that you impacted others. And that's what bothered me the most.
Right on. And so what's next? 18th, this thing drops. You're going to South by Southwest. What should people be doing to get with the Dopehead NFT thing?
So it's super simple. March the 18th is our public sale. You can go to our website. It's Dopeheads NFT.com, and you can mint directly from our site. Major announcement, it's 0.15 Ethereum, and you can pick them up on March the 18th. Now, we're expecting a huge rush of people to go get these things, so make sure that you're in our community. You can easily check out our website and find out where our Discord community is, or where our Twitter community is, or where our Instagram community is. And we're just super stoked and super excited about this. We're going to South by Southwest with 6 mascots. We have 2 wrapped vehicles with big 65-inch displays on the back so people can enjoy the cartoon. And we're going to go to Austin and make an impact where if you're walking around in Austin from today until the 20th, you're going to see some dope heads out and about.
Nice. Is weed legal in Texas right now?
No.
Are you going to kick any verses at South by Southwest?
I know Mike is stage diving. He has ambitions to, you know, do some stage diving with one of the mascot heads on. So okay. I know that's coming. And I know if there's a stage around and a microphone, I'm not too far behind.
All right. So I'm excited.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate. What was that?
Creatively, I'm just thinking about what. If I was a 40, what would I do? And now I have this 40 mascot head, so I'm going to do what I think a 40 ounce would do during the whole South by Southwest.
So you're going to be the 40?
Yeah, I'm going to be the 40 ounce.
What will the 40 do?
You know, I think he's going to get in mosh pits. I think he's going to, you know, get on the dance floor. He might do some stage diving, sleeping on park benches, you know.
Just make sure you go over it with your wife before you do everything the 40 ounce would do, right? Make sure your wife is on board. I think that sounds awesome. I think you guys, listen, I wish I was at South by Southwest with you. I would be the sober heroin addict mascot, which is a lot like I am. So cool. Fucking hell, man. Like, I'm excited to see what gets developed. I totally, I want... You know, I hopefully we can collaborate and have Dopey in the universe and do all these cool things. I don't want to push us onto you. You know what I'm saying?
We haven't even we haven't even got to the best part about the NFT and the NFT project itself that we're currently doing. We are actually dedicated to Dopey, and you are actually one of our nonprofits that we will be dealing with. So we will be assisting all the Dopey listeners. Tune in, check out D, let them know what's going on, because we're going to be involved in the community. We want to see you do positive things, D, and we want to assist in that. So when we get done with this drop, we're going to definitely hook up again and present you with something that's going to make you smile ear to ear.
Dude, it's going to be awesome. I'm just excited. We're doing an event in New York, like towards the summertime. It's going to be DopeyCon 3. You guys have to come through. And I'm not talking about our nonprofit yet because it hasn't launched yet, but Dopehead NFT is talking about contributing a ton to the Dopey Foundation, which we're incredibly grateful for. I just don't want to put the cart before the horse until we're launched officially. But we're super grateful and psyched for you guys to be a part of it. And also, I'm just excited to be affiliated with something in Texas. Like, I just feel like good. I feel like better as myself as a man because of that. So thank you for that.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. Toe down. I'm with you.
Yes.
All right. So thank you guys.
No
what do you
problem.
think? Did you have a good time? Was this a good experience for you?
Man, it was a pleasure being on. Mike and I, listen, we love your podcast. We love what you do. And you're an incredible inspiration to others. And man, we want to keep this thing pumping, and we want to be right behind you step by step.
Nice. And Mike, I know you're fucking like your eyes are blotto from so much screen time and coding and animating, but like we had talked, like, and we had talked about potentially animating some like legend Dopey stories that feature Chris and some of the Dopey Nation and me. So I'm hoping that after you recuperate, we can try to set some creative shit up. But I know you need rest. I see it. You're getting there. We're at the end of the marathon. I'm pulling for you. You have my unbridled support. 100%.
Yeah, it's actually, sorry about the type. It's actually I've run in this collection of 10,000 images. It takes 6.5 hours to run.
Amazing.
And I'm going through and testing because it's like, okay, I don't have any more time for it to run anymore without going all the way through. So I'm doing this test right now. Sorry about the clicking. Yeah, I'm
cool.
Tired. It's crazy. Let's get on the creative stuff.
We support you and thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you having us.
Right on.
I'm face down on the floor. No baby, please sir, can I have some more? No baby, said no baby.